So I'm joined now by Nord High Athletic Director John Longley. And John, as always, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about a whole bunch of seasons and everything that's happening right now, but focusing on the winter season that just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, which I think many people thought with the cold weather and everything being indoors would probably be the most difficult to go through with the pandemic. And it sounds like it sort of was. So how would you kind of evaluate it as a whole?
Yeah, I think, thanks for having me. Enjoyed being here. I think that the winter season, it's certainly, compared to the fall, we went through the fall once we got going, basically uninterrupted, pretty much. The way that we've built the season so far is we left a week at the end for any type of makeup games, and we did use that in the fall, but we didn't have like the array of rescheduling and things like that, and teams, ourselves and opponents being quarantined kind of on a daily, weekly basis. So the winter really, and I think it mirrors your community and what's happening, right, around us. We've seen that, but I want to give a lot of credit to the kids and the coaches for, really working through that and staying focused, and for the parents' support, and honestly for the additional support of our support staff and administration here. This year has been unique where I myself, and I have a small group of people, Ann Callaghan, Anne Marie Bustler, my support staff that we work together, and the coaching staff. But this year it's really been broadened because of COVID. We've really expanded our group, to, Dr. Galligan has been much more actively involved as a real assistance this year, and the school committee, particularly the chair, Teresa Stewart, and Sigal Reese, the director of the Board of Health, and Dr. Thompson, the superintendent. It's been a collective effort to kind of work together and try to provide an opportunity for the kids to participate. And certainly the winter, we needed everybody on board working together, because there were some times where, it was tricky, to keep going. And so those people were supportive, and we were able to kind of go day by day, week by week, and all of our games, we were able to complete our full schedule in all of our sports. And I think the kids, what we wanted to do at the beginning of the season for the winter is provide a meaningful experience for them, even if it was a little bit different from the past. And I feel like, looking back at it, that it was meaningful and a successful experience for the kids, which is ultimately what we want.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. The more isolation you need for everybody, the more people you need to make it happen. It's like bringing in everybody. So talk to us a little bit about each sport this winter. It sounded like it was a very successful winter season. Just sort of a recap for how everyone did.
Yeah, I mean, the teams did really well. So, again, congratulations to all the student athletes and the coaches. And, they really, and I think, boys basketball really had kind of a turnaround year. They were just under 500 last year and finished the season at 9-2, and so that was an incredible kind of jump for them, and kind of an exciting team playing an exciting brand of basketball, and with Coach Krista McDonald in her second year, and so they had a great year with a bright future. The girls, I think everyone was looking forward to the girls this year after they made it to the semifinals last year and won the league, and they had another really strong year at 8-2, and they have a lot of kids back coming into next year, so I think they're really looking forward to next year, hopefully under normal conditions, to see what they can do. And head coach Amy Quinn, they had a great year, some great games, and both boys hockey was 8-3. They typically the last few years have started off a little bit slow, and then they do great. Again, they were, I think, 1-2 or 1-3, and then finished 8-3.
Wow.
And this winter a little bit different. For the most part, we played the large side of the league twice, so we didn't have the games against the small side. Mm-hmm. So in theory, the schedule was a little bit stronger. So
makes you wonder. It's like, oh, what could have been?
Right, exactly. So the teams really held up well. The boys had a strong year. The last few years have been really, they've had some really good seasons, and So I know that they were happy with that. And we were, Tim Coskren, the head coach of the girls, they were 500 or just a smidge under. And I think that they dropped their last game, which I know that they, were really hoping to pull off to be right at 500. But they had a successful year, and I think that they were pleased. Both hockey teams, we opened up the new skating club of Boston for ice hockey and have a new home for our program, and which I know that many of you have seen, but hopefully, next year more people can get there because it's just a really valuable resource for our program. So that'll
be awesome. I imagine we'll have a lot of people showing up for that when
so that was
we can do that.
Yeah, it was too bad more people couldn't go, but it was good. I think the kids enjoyed it, and that we were able to to start our new kind of our new relationship with them moving forward. And then we had gymnastics in the last couple of years. Head coach Karen Broderick, they've had a really successful team, and again they had a really strong year. And I know they probably would have made the sectional tournament this year, which they did 2 years ago, which is really, a tough accomplishment. You're difficult to do, and they competed hard and had a lot of really strong gymnasts, and so they were really successful. And then we had boys and girls swim and dive. We actually swam out of Blue Hills this year. We had been over at Westwood High the last few years, and that really worked out well. We had a little bit more time over there, and they had a really successful season. Both teams were either just at 500 or just above, and so they had all of their meets were virtual. So that was the one, whereas gymnastics did compete against the other schools, and everyone else competed against each other. Swim and dive was virtual, so we had officials. Yeah, we had officials, and they, we ran through our meet, and someone else within the range of that week did their meet, and then they compared results. So we did that, for 6 weeks. So that was the one sport that was actually done virtually this year. So then they felt that that worked out well. It was a way to get the season in, and I think they felt really good about that. So overall, it was a success. It was a lot of work from a lot of people, but we just a really good winter season, similar to last year, which was so successful.
Now, one of the big changes among many was no postseason tournaments. Yeah. Do you feel like that affected the coaches and the players at all, or was that sort of one of those things like early in the season, it's like, oh, this is a bummer, we don't have this to play for, but we're just happy to be playing?
I think from talking to the coaches, I think they tried to figure out, mentally how they were going to prepare for the season, were they going to prepare differently, was it going to change? And I think once they got going, it was just kind of, do what you normally do. This is what we do. I think potentially the kids, and speaking to some of the coaches, were maybe a little disappointed at the start that there wasn't going to be a tournament. But honestly, once we came back from December vacation and the holidays, it was a very typical winter season because we didn't play any games before the winter break.
Yep.
So once we got back from winter break, it was the 2 to 3 games a week.
Always chaotic.
Right to the end.
Yep.
That's 6 weeks from when you get back after New Year's till February vacation. That is like the longest stretch of the year, and that was very normal. It was like, your 2 to 3 games a week, 3 levels or whatever you have. And so that was, I think, the games was pretty routine. Basketball played Tuesday, Friday, hockey played Wednesday, Saturday. So it was, whereas in the fall we did the thing with the games on the weekends, and
right.
we kind of changed the whole format. That's one thing we've seen this year is, as things have changed throughout the year, the league has changed a little bit too, and the format. And so we're trending towards kind of a more normal kind of programming offerings and timing as we kind of go through the year, which is good.
Now, typically we'd be wrapping up the winter tournaments right about now and getting ready for the spring, but we've actually got 2 seasons left of sports, starting with what's being called the Fall 2 season. So just sort of give us a little bit of a rundown of what's included in that, and then sort of the timeline for that, and then leading up to the spring.
So right now we have, like you said, what's called Fall 2, and we have football, girls volleyball, we have cheerleading, and we have boys and girls indoor track and field. So essentially we have 2 sports from the fall that didn't run, girls volleyball and football, and 3 sports from the winter, cheerleading, girls indoor track, and boys indoor track. So we started, this is the start of the third week. This is the start of the third week. So it's been, a smooth start. I think like with the winter, the trends in your community, we haven't had a lot of hiccups as far as COVID so far. So knock on wood, that's been good. Track and football are outside, which I think helps a little bit. So those teams are busy preparing. Girls volleyball starts their matches this week. Football starts next week, and so does track and field. The couple of the girls volleyball will be similar to what it was in the past. We'll have the 3 levels. They have a 10 or 12 match schedule, and that will fall just kind of similar to what we've done with the other sports. They'll play the large side of the TVL, and football will play the large side as well. They'll play 5 games against the large side. And track and field will play, well, some of the schools actually did indoor track during the winter season. So there's 6 schools competing now in fall 2. And so what we're doing is we're running indoor track and field, those events, but we're doing them outside.
Okay.
And so, we'll kind of lead into spring track where that will be outside as well, but it'll be the spring events. So it's essentially the winter track events, but we're running them outdoors.
And then it sounds like there's a whole lot still kind of being determined for the spring, but we're almost at the point where those discussions are really happening.
Right. So this is the big week for the spring. You have all of the meetings, all of the approval meetings, the sports medicine, the board of directors, and the COVID task force will make their presentations this week. So we haven't put out spring schedules or anything like that. Spring is scheduled to start on the 26th of April, and so they're hoping to run some sort of a tournament, but we're restricted by time. The seasons have been essentially 10 weeks, where in the past they would be 14 weeks. So we're going to learn a lot this week about what the spring season will look like, how many games we can play, will there be a tournament? So there's a lot still to be determined. Some of the coaches have been texting, we still don't have all that information. We're hoping by next week we'll be able to put out a schedule and people will know, will there be a tournament, but we're officially scheduled to start the Monday after April vacation, the 26th.
Well, it sounds like you have quite a busy couple months still to come for figuring everything out.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, and we're about just having the 4 seasons, having football outside, and it'll be there's certainly been a big learning curve, and a lot of people working together, and certainly it hasn't been boring, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for all that you've done and everyone else who has been able to make this happen. It's awesome that we get to have a season of some sort, no matter what it is, for the kids, especially those seniors going out on their last year.
Definitely.